Hello and welcome to Philosophy Made Simple. Today I'm going to start a kind of short course on epistemology. Epistemology is the study of knowledge in philosophy. It comes from the ancient Greek word episteme, which could be used to indicate knowledge, and ology as the study of the science of something, biology, chemistry, and so on and so forth. Anyway, today we're going to be looking at a theory called direct realism. It would be the first theory that one would look at in philosophy of perception, and direct realism is effectively a kind of common sense, garden variety, average everyday theory that someone would have if you ask them about perception. We'll dig into that and see the problems that comes up with it. So direct realism is as I said, it's the basic theory of the philosophy of perception. And the philosophy of perception really is asking about whether our senses, can be trusted and whether they give us direct knowledge, and if they do give us direct knowledge, how they give us direct knowledge of the external world. So that's really the area, that's the question that's being asked in all the theories that come up. So direct realism, really just break it down into its two constitutive parts. Direct, the claim is when we see something, when we hear something, when we touch something, we see the thing, we touch the thing, we taste the thing, we have direct access to, we are open to things out in the world. And this seems to work. Our ordinary language makes sense of things like that. We don't ask someone to pass us the image of the ball, we ask them to pass us the ball. We don't ask someone to pass us the image of the fork, we just ask for the fork and we get it. Now, the real aspect, again, very straightforward. Real means something's out there in the world, independent of our minds, right? It doesn't need our mind to exist. It's going to be there after our mind is gone and no longer attending to it. Oh, it may well be there before our mind ever came into existence, if we're talking about mountains, stars, our parents. So real means simply independent of the mind, right? Okay. So if I was in this room and looking at this table and chair, or these chairs, I would be seeing them. And this is the claim. Very, very simple, very, very clear. Don't seem to be any problems with it until you start digging deeper. So let's do that. There are four problems with direct realism. The first one's the argument from perceptual variation, the argument from illusion, the argument from hallucination, and the time lag argument. The argument from perceptual variation is very old, although made famous by Bertrand Russell in 1913 in his book The Problems of Philosophy. He claims, well, look, we know that when we see things, we see them from different perspectives. And when we see them from different perspectives, we get different experiences of them. There's only one chair, the one chair identical with itself, for example, here, but if I see it from behind, from the front, from underneath, or if I even see it in different lighting, the chair looks different to me, right? I have an experience of multifarious experiences, a variety of different experiences of this one thing. So how can that be? How can I have on one side the thing itself that's identical, on the other side all these other varied experiences? Presumably what I see is not the chair as such, it must be something else, something between the chair and me, something that perhaps represents the chair in some way, corresponds with it. But it's not the chair that I see, right? So this is the claim. Let's look at the second one. The argument from illusion, well, if you see this pencil here in the water, this pencil is suffering from what we call refraction. Now, when light hits something in reflection, it bounces off at the exact same angle that it hits the thing, right? Which means when you're looking in a mirror, you look 2 meters away if you're 2 meters away, and so on and so forth. But with refraction, the light bounces off at a different angle, and that means in this image of this pencil, the pencil looks crooked. Now, again, the pencil isn't crooked, the pencil's just there being straight. It's been placed in water, the light's refracting off it, which means that you're seeing something crooked. Well, the pencil's straight, what you're seeing's crooked. Well, the same thing can't be crooked and straight at the same time. So you must be seeing something different. You must be experiencing some other thing, something that represents or kind of makes it, somehow corresponds to the pencil out in the world, but it's not the pencil, right? The thing that you're looking at must be somehow dependent on the mind. If you thought the argument from illusion was a problem, consider this, the argument from hallucination. Macbeth sees a dagger, but there is no dagger. What Macbeth sees is mind dependent. He needs the mind to have this image of a dagger in his brain. The dagger doesn't exist after all. And the real problem, say philosophers, is we can't distinguish a hallucinated dagger from a real one. They are subjectively indistinguishable. A real dagger and a hallucinated dagger, at least in principle, cannot be can't tell them apart. So again, this makes it seem, if we kind of pare things down and think equally about it, that everything we see is somehow mind dependent, right? It's just that we think they're not, but they are. The hallucinated dagger is as real in our minds as the real things out in the world. And so we are on equal footing there when we're seeing the dagger and the world. Finally, the time lag argument. Again, this is an argument from Russell. It's not really, in a strict sense, philosophical. It's an argument from physics, which says, look, even if we did see things directly, like light, the objects themselves we're seeing are seen indirectly because there's a lapse in time. There's a time lag between the emission of the light from the object and it going into our brain. So the sun's light is famously about 8 minutes away. It takes about 8 minutes from the light of the sun to hit the earth. And again, those light waves are what we see. The sun is what we see indirectly, right? And of course, that goes even further for distant galaxies and so on and so forth, which is why we can see into the past effectively and study the beginning of the universe, because very distant galaxies are 13 billion years old and the light we're seeing is 13 billion years old as well. So again, we don't see things directly. We see things indirectly in time. So now, you could well get a 5-mark question asking you what direct realism is. It's the simplest thing in the world, and I want you to kind of be able to do that, so I'm going to give you an example of it here. It says, direct realism is a theory in the philosophy of perception that claims that we perceive objects in the external world directly, and that means immediately as they are. For example, when I see a table, I perceive a table, not something in my mind that represents one. And secondly, it claims that the thing I see exists independent of my mind and does not need my mind to continue to exist. For example, when I see a table, the table was there before I saw it and will probably continue to be there afterwards. So direct realism is sometimes known as naive realism. Okay, I hope that found that helpful.